Before today's episode begins, I want to apologize for the poor sound of the recording. We had a major technical problem, and after listening to the recording, I had to make a decision. Should I add the episode, or should we do a new recording? But I liked the sentiments that Nicole expressed and decided to try to save the episode. So, here's Nicole's story. To make a podcast is something I've been thinking about for a while. To create a platform for artists, painters, dancers, photographers and dreamers, all with one common thing. They follow their passion and their dreams. Maybe not always for fame or perfection. Instead, it's about making the world more beautiful or a bit more alive. So to have the possibilities to create a little place here with a second cup of coffee, where often the deeper conversation begins, the story. I will today say hello to Nicole, who is one of the most creative and beautiful women I know. So, hi Nicole. We need to let the listeners know that you're living in Melbourne in Australia. You're 8 hours ahead of us in Sweden. So I start with a very serious question here in Sweden, that since it's the number one topic we talk about here. So how is the weather and how are you?
I'm very well. Just winding down. It's evening here. And the weather is cold. We're going into winter now. Pulled out all of our winter wardrobe, our coats, our boots, our jackets.
And here we are in dresses and the summer clothes. Well, today it's actually quite cold here and it's raining. So typical Swedish summer weather. But actually, you have a connection to Sweden. So
I have my mother, she's Swedish, and everyone on that side of the family. So mormor och morfar and my cousins, I visit them from time to time.
yeah, you even
And
speak
when
Swedish actually. Du
Yes,
talar
I
svenska.
do. Ja, lite grann. Jag pluggade svenska när jag var yngre. Gick till svenska skolan. Jag tyckte inte om det så mycket. Jag ville bara vara hem på lördag.
Sweden and Australia, they are so far away from each other. So I remember when I found you on Insta, and I thought your Insta was just amazing. The photos and the reels are so beautiful. And
Thank you.
And then you told me that you spoke Swedish and you actually had Swedish inheritance. And I was like, wow, amazed. And you spoke a bit Swedish and that made it so special. But when was the last time you went to Sweden?
It would have been maybe 4 years ago coming up on, it was maybe longer. I think it was before COVID.
Yeah, I think I saw some photos from Uppsala.
Yes, so mormor hon bor i Uppsala, så vi brukar stanna med henne. Hon dog nu, så nu har inte hennes hemma längre. Så vi är ledsna över det, men det är livet.
Yeah, it's life, even if it's sad, and I'm sorry for your loss. So,
thank you.
Are there any traditions or things from Sweden that you have brought over to Australia and that you keep on doing?
Yes. So fika.
Yes, fika is very important. It's to have a coffee and cake. Yes,
and crisps and cheese and caviar, Kalles caviar. So I've shown a few friends what fika is.
Have you let them try the caviar?
Yes, I have.
So
some people like it, and some people don't like it very much. I think it must be like Sweden's Vegemite.
Yeah, I think the Swedish caviar called Kalles Caviar. It's orange creamy thing in you have it on sandwiches. It's
yes, you put it on crisp bread.
exactly, and the taste is so special. So I think either you love it or you hate it.
I love it. I think it's to die for. I think it's better than the expensive caviar you get. I think that's probably the main tradition that I bring over. Christmas songs. Smågrodorna.
Yes.
And midsummer. So midsummer, what's the pole called that you dance around?
Midsommarstång.
Sommarstången.
Yeah, midsommarstång. We have in Sweden, we have midsummer, where we dance around, pole, across. That.
I remember I told some of my friends that we danced around with ribbons and we were nude, dancing around a pole. And it's because everybody thinks Sweden, nudists. Everyone in Sweden is a nudist. So I said, yes, that's what we do.
It's so true. We make this pole and a cross, like a cross, and we put leaves and flowers on it, and then we dance around it naked every summer. So funny. But I think we should tell the listeners more about who you are, about your art and your acting and dancing, because your dancing is so special. You are a burlesque dancer and you are so good at it. And so I just wonder, where did you learn to dance burlesque?
Burlesque, I've made it up. So when I do it now, I really, if you want to get technical, I will slow everything down. I count in my head, not to the beat of the song, but I'll do it like I did in primary school. I'll go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, and move slowly because everything becomes more sensual when you slow down. Every action becomes a bit more of a statement, and you have to at least portray confidence when you're doing that. But otherwise, the way that I got into burlesque was actually I went to a burlesque club when I was 17, which is underage in Australia. And I overheard them saying that the main performer didn't show up. So I went up to them and I said, I do burlesque and I can do a performance tonight. Because every night I would always make sure that I wore everything was presentable and I wore the nicest lingerie and stockings underneath. So I wasn't going to be ashamed what I had underneath my dress.
That's so clever. 17 years old. That is so clever.
Yes. But I didn't tell them I was 17. No, so I did the performance and it went well. And afterwards they asked if I could come again and work for them. And I said, because I wasn't 18 yet, and I couldn't come back because they would have asked for my age. And I said, I'm going away for about a year, but when I come back, I would love to. So I came back when I turned 18, and then they noticed. They said, "Did you just turn 18?"
That is so funny, but it's so cute. Well, you did well, because I've seen you on your Insta. So I mean, you did it great.
Thank you.
I've seen now that you sew your own dresses. So where do you get the inspiration from that?
Movies, pictures I sketch, maybe something I see on a mannequin or a costume or somebody down the street. I just take whatever inspires me and then I build off of it. And I usually do a sketch. I do a lot of sketches. And then I plan how I could make that costume a reality. I have absolutely no training whatsoever in costume making,
Oh.
so I just make it up.
Well, you're doing good because I've seen it on Insta, and it's so interesting to follow you also in the when you do a dress and how we can see the stages of the dress. Sometimes you show like, oh, now I've done those pearls or something, and then we see the final dress, and they are stunning.
I often try, when I'm working on a project, I like to show the progress of it. I want other artists or people that are interested in being creative to see that I'm human, that I blunder through, and
Yeah.
you can see it happening before you and realize that it is achievable. And I'm using things, the costume materials are things that everybody has access to.
But I also see that you follow other women that dance burlesque. So,
Yes.
do you have like your community, or how does it work? Like, what are the
Um,
conversation about between you, women that is, I mean, the other also women that is burlesque dancer?
I can tell you a pretty answer, or I can tell you the truth. It's just, I know you want to create a beautiful space for women, but I guess what I can share is what women can do to achieve a beautiful space. But the
Yeah.
burlesque industry it's not a friendly one. It's very competitive, and usually women see other performers as competition or threat. I have met nice a couple of nice people in the industry, and I did with one of the girls. I tried to build a relationship, but she didn't need another friend in her life. She was busy, and I didn't take it personally. I knew that we got along, but we just didn't have a strong bond
Okay.
enough to keep in contact. Um, but I respect her work, and I love her work.
Because in my
Uh,
mind, I was just thinking that maybe you could help each other out, like,
yes,
because
that's
United,
that's what I wanted to
yeah.
do. But unfortunately, women aren't encouraged to be supportive of one another. If you look at movies,
Mm.
and girls aren't portrayed as supportive to one another. So I think that needs to change. I think
Yeah.
people need to start showing how to be nice to each other and showing the positives of friendships between women, because it really is nourishing, it's beautiful, and it's through what I've heard on educational podcasts, and I'm by no means a scientist or an expert, but I have picked up that they say that oxytocin is released when you're in the company of women. So chemically, you're happier, and cortisol goes down, so
Yeah.
the stress hormone goes down. But I have those women on my Instagram, and when I try to reach out to them, none of them write back. So I don't know if they don't see me. I don't know if they're not interested. I don't know if they're reacting, negatively towards me because
It's a
because
little
I'm a
bit sad because
competition.
I think when us women we come together, the woman is a very strong human. So when we women
Oh,
come together, we get so strong. And if we support and
mm,
we love each other, so yeah, it's a bit sad that you can't, like, you reaching out and trying to create those bonds, and hopefully in the future it will change.
I
And
think the best advice that I give another artist and another woman is try to find your local artists that are in your genre or another. I mean, even that, but when you find somebody that resonates with your style, you can inspire each other and create together. But
exactly.
if you're supporting other local artists, we want our industry to thrive. So do what you want to be done onto you, which is you want people to notice you and appreciate your art. So go out of your way to do it to another artist, and they may reciprocate.
Yeah.
We survive in numbers.
Yeah. Hopefully it will change. Well, you said in a beautiful video recently that on stage you are the truest you. What do you mean by that?
Yes. So recently I also said I said that in the past that was my only time I was my true self. But I recently found friends and made a new girlfriend, female friend, that gave me permission to be the most vulnerable and truest, rawest version of myself. But before that, yes, when I performed, when I studied a character and performed it for a change, because I've always been told I'm too much, I'm too emotional, which comes from ADHD, which is something that I've also recently been diagnosed with. But because I'm so used to everyone telling me you're too much, when I'm on stage, you're never told you're too much. The fact that you're too much in a performance is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, emotional sensitivity is seen as an asset, as something that everybody wants to be like as an actress. And I'm free to make the most dramatic, horrible, atrocious mistakes on stage as a character. Whereas if I made those mistakes as Nicole, I would be judged. I would be seen as a bad or stupid person. So I really live on stage and and embrace all the madness a character goes through, because I have permission to do that on stage or on film.
And now while we are talking about your acting, you're an actress also.
Yes.
And where did you start to act? Where, in what age did you that come? Or where did it all start?
When I was very young, I always loved performing to family. I would sing songs. I made up Pippi Longstrump episodes, and my mother, we've got on film, she says, "From Pippi Longstrump," and I run around going, "Pippi Longstrump, Pippi Longstrump, Pippi Long," just for my mother's entertainment. And when I saw film, I had somebody, I don't know who, but explained to me it wasn't real. People pretended, and I liked that.
Yeah.
But we saw performances, stage performances when I was very young, and I thought I want to do that. I want everyone to watch me, and I wanted to perform. I wanted to entertain. I wanted that applause, and I wanted to take. When I got older, I realized through performance, I can show people answers. I can be a good example. I can teach people things, and I like that. I like dressing up and being an example for something, or being a example of what not to do.
So how do you
I
prepare like emotionally for casting?
Okay, so I've trained in something called Meisner technique. So you memorize lines, and then you dissect the lines, and you select actions. You pick actions to play that your character can do to achieve their goals. So if you had a line saying, "I hate you," the action might be something like to scold, to hurt, to humor. So the way that you say it, if it was to hurt, it would just be, I hate you, or you can yell it. To humor someone would be lighthearted, I hate you, or God, I hate you, or to make light.
Yeah.
And it makes you more specific with how you say your lines. And then I would have practices in Alexander technique, which is all about movement, and really just getting specific with my actions and the dialogue that I have. I love rehearsing. I love rehearsing so much. You really get to discover yourself through another character.
Is it like I was just thinking if you get a role and then there's a timeline between the roles, is it like how do you keep your acting fresh, or do you prepare
You
yourself in
do it through
different ways?
rehearsals. You try to have as many rehearsals as possible, because unless you drill it, it won't be effective. You will stumble through with ums and ahs. You want it to be as alive in you, and you know you want to know it well enough that it's like a habit to you.
Yeah.
Like eating, you know how to eat, so it's very easy. You don't have to think, you just know the lines, and you can start in the middle of a monologue and go from there without thinking. Yeah, you run it as often as you can. And a lot of people have asked, but you don't come across as spontaneous or authentic if you run it too much, because you get bored of it. You never get bored of it. You remain curious every single time you do it. It's like new, because every single time you go through it, you'll find something new. You'll have a different emotion. You'll have what you've planned to do, but unless you've really learned it, like you really learn it in it and familiar with it, you can't achieve the emotion that you want, because you're too busy thinking about the lines. So I don't know if that
Yeah, it's
helps you.
well, it's very interesting to listen how your work is, like you practice full and
Yes, it's like going to the gym. You get better. That's probably a good analogy.
yeah, because I wonder, it's like, what do you feel like today that you are a beginner at? Because every day we learn new things, but what do you feel like you are a beginner at right now?
If I said life, so I think my mental health and making healthy choices, I'm getting better at it, but I didn't know how to do that until very recently. It was literally shown to me by somebody else, and they showed it to me over 2-3 years. They basically, they were like a teacher or a parent to me, in a sense, nurturing me through and showing me these habits that you have aren't the healthiest and they're not sustainable. And friendship, I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like with people until very recently. And as I mentioned before, I made friends with a girl that I met through, was in a psychiatric ward for a medication change, and she was in there too for treatment. And I've never been so drawn to somebody and desperate to see them, every day, to spend time with them. And she had the same instinct towards me. And I keep saying to her, I didn't know people like you existed. I didn't know friendship could be so nourishing, because for me, relationships have usually cost me something. There's something at my expense, or I've been used for something that I have, not for uh, for me, for friendship.
Yeah, and we are going to
So that's
talk
something
about also
that
about your mental health soon, because this is a big thing you have on your Insta right now, and it's such an important thing you are doing.
The other thing that I'm new to, that I'm literally learning now, is spreading awareness of mental health through Instagram. So I'm learning how to use Instagram properly, checking the insights and working with the algorithm. And
a while ago, you actually get your Insta hacked also.
oh, yes. So the first one I had there were a couple of girls from the burlesque world. They didn't like me, and they saw me as a threat, and they reported something that wasn't true to Instagram. They said that I was advocating and for suicide, which I don't want to say I'm against aided suicide for mental health. That's a whole different thing, but almost like I was bullying people into suicide, and my account was taken down, and I couldn't appeal to Instagram because no human being checks that. So that hurt me so much, because I didn't understand how somebody could be so cruel just because they saw you as threat. So that hurt me. I was very affected by that because my following, it took me a while to grow that, and I was finally about to start making money with Instagram. I had some wonderful connections which I haven't been able to continue. It really affected me. And then the next Instagram that I had, when I started getting momentum in a following, somebody from Nigeria hacked me and then used my Instagram to con people. And I felt horrible for the vulnerable people that thought that it was me asking for money. And I remember his number popped up on WhatsApp, and I called him and I said, I want my Instagram back. How dare you? And he was so shocked that I got his number. The internet does funny things, doesn't it? But he wouldn't budge. He asked for $400, and I wasn't going to give him money. That was my identity. And he wasn't going to give it back after $400. He would have continued asking
he will ask you for more money, probably.
This one, which I was going through a lot of depression, and I just didn't have the motivation to build another Instagram from scratch.
Yeah, it's a big thing to grow an Instagram, and I think everyone is struggling with it, that some type of artist or
I'm starting to see.
I was just saying that using the Insta as a platform or social media, it's always the same problem with the algorithm, or just to spread the word.
Yes, and the algorithm's always changing as well. When you finally understand it, then it changes.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see growth from the grind that I'm doing. But I'm enjoying the grind because I'm speaking about something that I'm passionate about.
And I will ask you a little bit about your modeling, and then I will let you talk about your latest project that is so important. But if we come back to the modeling, because you are a model also, and what is it in the modeling that you love, and why do you do it? So
I've actually taken a step back from modeling. Actually, no, I've recently stepped back into it, but on my terms.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of portraits, or I'm working with the girl that I mentioned. Her name's Ella. I'm actually in her studio at the moment. We meet up here, we do photo shoots, or we're going to start painting. I record some of my Instagram videos here. It's our home away from home. And so the way that modeling used to be in my life was I worked on everybody else's demands and desires and wants. And some of the things that they wanted from me weren't realistic or healthy. So I would only get jobs, or I wouldn't only, but I would get a lot of jobs when I was skinny to a point that it was very unhealthy. I would turn up to shoot, not usually if we were doing a costume fitting, and a few times I fainted because I couldn't stand still for that long. And I also was diagnosed very recently with, not quite diagnosed, but we're seeing if I have a condition called POTS, which affects the ability to circulate your blood effectively, which means that you are prone to fainting, which is made worse when you're not, you're not eating well, when you're not properly nourished. And I was always trying to achieve beauty standards that other photographers wanted for women, which just they're so unhealthy. They're not naturally. They're not natural at all. They're just you can't achieve them.
No.
And if you do, you can't stay that way. It's atrocious.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, how do you find different photographers, and how do you feel like, how do you connect with them so you feel safe? But obviously you've been in situations where you haven't been safe.
No, some photographers, especially, you have to be careful as a woman, are predators. And you don't know until you're there, and you really have to have that self-worth in you to say stop and no and walk out. Forget about the money, forget about the pictures. If somebody does something to you that makes you vulnerable, it's not worth it. I promise it's not worth it. No amount of fame or it's just, you'll never be happy.
No, it's a good advice. I'm thinking maybe if there are younger people out there that is thinking about modeling, that they can take that advice with them to be strong and just say no. If it doesn't feel good in your gut, then walk away.
And take comfort in the fact that there will be other photographers. I promise, you just got to put yourself out there. And in order to find those photographers, do your own work. Take a camera and take your own pictures and become a photographer yourself, because you also learn your best angles and you have the freedom to do it under your terms, without being worried about getting those bad pictures and having to learn on the job. And that's
a good advice. And nowadays the cameras often is in our phones. They are so good also. So, yeah.
Yes, but if you're going to start taking pictures with your phone, make sure you YouTube the best settings for it, because like the original settings for a camera phone are terrible. And it makes you come out distorted. But that's what I've done recently, is become my own photographer, or ask Ella to capture the image that I want. So I usually style or create a look and a backdrop that I want to photograph. And I love it. I get to create a whole feeling through a picture. I can capture the moment I want to share. So yes, you have control over your image if you take your own pictures.
Yeah, good advice. So let's talk about your project that you are doing now, or maybe not a project,
It is a bit of a project.
And it's so important. It's about your mental health. You are working with your Insta right now of spreading the word and knowledge, and you have so much knowledge about this, and you are doing it in such a beautiful way and a very direct way also. So tell me about your journey, and how did you understand that you had come to your breaking point where you felt so bad, so you had to do something about it?
So it started with depression. I fell into a depression quite in my teenage years, and then it became unbearable over COVID, just because my art was taken away. Nobody was coming to theatre, and when you don't get that release, or you don't get to put your work into the world and be there in person, doing it over the internet, it's just you lose that connection with people. At least for me, I can't survive digitally. And I was also diagnosed with bipolar type 2 disorder in my early 20s. But it was never a clear diagnosis. I didn't fit neatly into that category. But it was the only explanation. So I learned a lot about it, but I was never comfortable in that. I thought I was, but I now realize I wasn't. And about 8 months ago, I made a big life-changing decision, and kind of snowballed from there because I finally realized I kind of learned that the only way that I could find relief is if I changed, the choices I was making. And this person that I told you has been teaching me how to make healthier choices. Not teaching me, but showing me and pushing me to. So when they kind of were like my training wheels, and then they removed them, they literally went away out of my life for a while, and I had to make those choices myself. And I slowly realized I could, and I was worth making those choices. And then I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I became very invested in researching, what the consequences are for ADHD. And so many things were explained. I thought I was fundamentally flawed. I thought something in me was wrong. Like genetically, my DNA was wrong. And it explains why I couldn't study. I failed at school. Why I wasn't able to make friends in school. My self-destructive behavior, my risk-taking behavior, my addiction, everything made sense. It didn't excuse me, but it gave me context. And then I started researching the behaviors that ADHD create in you, and then I started noticing them. And then I started researching how to better manage it. What can you do to improve?
Mm.
And then through that, I learned what regulation was, which is by making the healthier choices, you actually self-regulate, which is the relief I've been looking for my whole life. I've been puffing, running out of oxygen the whole time. And all of a sudden, I, I could take a breath, and then I could take another one, and it became easy.
Yeah.
And then I found out that bipolar is usually, people mistake your ADHD as bipolar. So I spoke to my therapist, and she agrees that I don't have bipolar. It was ADHD the whole time. And I
Wow.
finally fit into a diagnosis, and it was obvious.
Yeah.
So I decided, when I was going through my depression, I always wanted somebody on Instagram or some social platform that I could follow, somebody that was a good example, that was healing, so I could see how they were doing,
Mm.
how they were doing that,
Mm.
so I could do it too. And I thought, why don't I be the example that I needed? So I used Instagram to spread awareness of depression and ADHD using personal examples and stories, and that were true to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you are
that's
doing in such a beautiful way. It's like, yeah, you make me listen. Go into Nicole's account and just spread the word, because she's doing this so good. And I think it's so important.
if anyone is interested, my username is Nicole underscore Melrose.
Yes, and I will put up your link and everything. This episode is out there so people can find you.
And I'm doing it. I wanted it to be aesthetically fun, so I'm doing it in a 1950s style and quite a colorful theme. So vintage aesthetic,
Yeah.
like Hollywood glamour, not pinup or burlesque, but classic Hollywood glamour.
Yeah.
And I pick my outfits and make everything match. Yeah, so I'm having fun with that. I want to visually grab people.
Yeah, I think everyone should go in there. And even if you don't need maybe the advice today, maybe people know, often you know someone in your environment that is struggling with something. And I think your account is, people should spread your word. So about the ADHD, tell me about what is the superpower of having this diagnosis. What is the superpower in ADHD?
So I thought that ADHD, I thought it was a sentence to a life of struggle. I thought the consequences just were all bad. But there are so many wonderful things with ADHD. The fact that you are naturally a artistic creative, you have to express yourself, you're moved to express yourself as somebody with ADHD. But then also comes with a struggle to focus or keeping focus. Hyper focus is another thing. I had my friend Ella, she actually said that sometimes she feels trapped by hyperfocus because she can't break away from it. And I understand that, but hyperfocus also makes you curious to finding answers. So I become a little expert in things that interest me. So that's one of the superpowers. But the one that you're asking about is the one that I made a video about.
Yes.
And when I was managing my ADHD and making healthy choices, and I was finally able to regulate myself, I recognized, I was listening to a podcast, and they said that people with ADHD are very good at recognizing patterns. I went, I notice I've gotten better at problem solving, at seeing things, and I didn't realize what it was until I heard the podcast, and I was like, this is something I'm good at. And I think I compared it to the ability of seeing every word in a word find or a crossword. You just you don't know how, but you can just recognize them. And it's so true. I know it because I do it.
It's so amazing to see you today, since we've known each other for a while, and I've been following your account for quite a long time. And I think, and I've seen the progress in you. And it's so beautiful to have been able to follow your struggle that's been there. And I remember when you told us that, oh, you're bipolar, and then now it's changed and you got the true diagnosis. The progress has been, it's been hard to watch from the outside. At the same time, it's so beautiful to see you today, like a complete, still the same, but like a freer, happier person that has come to a more true and calm and safe place.
I didn't think happiness was real. I thought it was a fairy tale that people made up. I didn't know. I thought everybody was in on this lie, and wasn't until recently. I found out that happiness is real.
Yeah.
And it sounds extreme, but it's the truth. And you can actually see the difference. A part of me doesn't want to share this, but I think if I want to spread awareness, I want to show where I came from to where I am now. But if you look up an interview I did on bipolar called The Sick and the Sexy on YouTube, you can, like, you don't have to look hard. You don't have to look hard at all. I'm so miserable. I'm flat. I'm deflated. I speak in a monotone because I wasn't regulated. I was desperately trying to survive. And it's quite sad to watch the whole thing. Don't watch the whole thing. But if you watch a minute, that now there's this expression in my voice. You can physically I'm more alive.
Yeah, and it's been a beautiful ride to stand aside and just watch the journey of you. So, and see your passion in your work, and to see also that today you are doing this such an important work, and to try to spread the word. So I want everyone goes into your account, as I said, and spread the word, because I think it can help so many people. And I want to talk a little bit about your book also, because you've written a book. It's called The Words I Swallow, and it's also such a beautiful book. And I want to know a little bit more about it, and why did you write the book for?
So it's a collection of my poetry over 15 years of my life, and prose and thoughts I've had. They're very reflective and sort of a self-analysis, and it's done as a stream of consciousness almost. So it's very raw. When I put the book together, I was desperate at that stage for finding people that could relate to me and were similar to me, because I was so lonely. I was so alone. And I hoped that there was, relationships. I wanted to connect with someone.
Yeah.
So I put together everything that made me, packaged for people could read. It was almost like a dating profile of me for friendships and things. And I put it out on my social media, on my Instagram. That was when I had my first large account, and then it was taken down fairly quickly. So, but that's why I created the book, and that's who I also created the book for people that may be going through similar thoughts and reflection in their life, so they can see that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And you can create something beautiful out of your own personal madness, which is a sad process.
Mm.
It's not, you're not. I wasn't excited about my book. I wasn't proud of it. I didn't, because I was so depressed. I couldn't enjoy having created something so wonderful. But now it's only recently, through when I've become healthy, that I'm going back to it, going, everybody, I did this. I did this. I think it's worth reading. And when I put it together, I made sure for it to be relatable and understood by the majority of people. So it's, you don't have to have a very learned education to understand what I've written, because I wasn't trying to portray myself as intelligent. I was trying to connect with people, on to to reach out to other people. That's what I wanted. I wanted
Yeah.
more people to be able to understand it, because if they couldn't understand it, they wouldn't want to reach out to me.
So it's
So
a sad, beautiful process that I also think many people go through, that feel alone in a world full of people. There are so many people feeling lonely. So again, back to your process, it's so beautiful. Beautiful is the only word I can find, but it really is, because I've seen the book, and it's worth buying.
I'd probably describe it as human.
Mm.
It's what makes us human.
Yeah.
And the book starts in a very negative place, quite haunting poetry and prose and thoughts and dark themes. But it becomes a little bit lighter at the end, and a little bit more enlightened. Though that wasn't the end. by that and that together, I actually wasn't in an enlightened state. I had moments of enlightenment where I realized life can be wonderful, but it wasn't. It was only for moments. It was only long enough to write that poem.
Mm.
Um,
It almost
but
feels like a
I have
start of your journey, like that was the start of.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean it was what was before my journey of healing. You can see the miserable version of me, but it's not depressing to read. It's actually quite beautiful and quite touching. And you see
Yeah.
how vulnerable I am and how desperate I am to understand why I did the things and I think the things and it's sort of a self dissection.
Mm. Yeah, I will put here in a link also where you can buy the book because it's worth every penny. But who influenced you and inspired you in life?
So many people. The big one and the easiest answer would be my grandmother, my farmor, and she did so. She was a fashion icon actress in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then she was also an artist throughout those years and continued to paint and create decoupage into the early 2000s until she went. She's beyond legally blind now. She's clinically blind. But I saw her as the ideal, perfect woman, and that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then through her and her friend who would babysit me, I learned about those old, beautiful vintage Hollywood movies. And I already wanted to be an actress, but I was introduced to the golden era, and I've always been drawn to visual things like style and imagery, and I loved what Hollywood glamour looked like, and I wanted to be that. I wanted to talk like them, move like them, look like them. And that's what my grandmother was, when she was younger. So I thought I want to grow up like that. And then I was really my grandmother. Then there was things, for my mother. So I didn't really get to enjoy my mother as a person until recently, really.
Mm.
And then artists and the theater that came through Melbourne, the countries that I saw. I've traveled to quite a few countries, and the fashions and the people that I met, a lot of things, but the biggest one was my grandmother.
That it's a sweet thing. She must be so happy. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for today. It's been great fun to have you on, and it's been so educating also as well. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for having
Thank
you
you.
today. And
Thank you. I think before I go, I would like to remind everyone through Instagram, Nicole_Melrose. And if you're interested in purchasing my book or finding information about it, if you type in Nicole Melrose, the words I swallowed, into Google, my book should pop up. If you'd like a hard copy of my book, you send me a message on Instagram and I can send one to you. Or if you go to lulu.com and type in the words I swallowed, you'll have to say that you're 18 years or over when you do the search, but I pop up there and you can get my PDF. At the moment, it's only $5 Australian dollars, but I think I will increase its price because I definitely undersold it. But I put it at a price that was accessible to everyone because I wanted it to reach people, but I'm not so. I still wanted to reach people. I don't know. Maybe I won't increase it because I like the idea of art being reached by more people.
yeah, And I will write all the information also here on Insta, so we can see the photos of you. And please, everyone, go in and follow Nicole and buy her book.
Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. And I know you're going to be a wonderful place for artists to meet and connect. And what you're doing, I mean, it's such a wonderful thing. We need more people like you doing this, because artists are notoriously bad at marketing themselves.
I know, I've seen that. So I was thinking, let me do a platform where we all can meet. And thank you for your kind words. Yeah, I hope this can be a great place of inspiration and people can connect and just spread the love and the beauty of art and just make life a little bit more alive. So
thank you, darling.
Thank you. And see you soon.
Hej då.
Hej då.